Welcome to the B2B Brand 180 podcast, a place where we focus on transformative strategies and innovative approaches in B2B branding and marketing. You'll learn today how to make a 180-degree shift in your marketing efforts or actually complete reversals in brand strategies. So start now by making some pivotal shifts and groundbreaking moves that redefine how you position yourself in the market. My name is Linda Fanaras, and I'm the host of today's B2B Brand 180 podcast. And I'm super excited to bring in Andrew Seidman. He is the co-founder and COO of Digital Reach, and he has spent 10 years designing full funnel go-to-market motions for enterprises and startups. So hi, Andrew. I'd love for you to take a moment and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Hey, Linda, thanks so much for having me. I'm one of the co-founders at Digital Reach. For now 12 years almost, we have been helping B2B companies create full funnel go-to-market motions with an EDM focus, but also demand generation, even PLG motions as well. I'm based out of Brooklyn, New York. I followed my now fiance here a few years ago from the Bay Area, where I lived and worked for almost 9 years. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here and talk with you, Linda.
And I understand you're a former high stakes professional poker player, which I thought was a great little tidbit about you that I did not know about. So
Yeah, it is a unique piece of my background for sure. Did it through college and for a number of years out after college before I found my way here.
awesome. All right. So today what I really want to talk about is really building out and talking about integrated marketing strategies. How we really best tie together good websites, content, CRM, and a strategy that actually works. Something that's fully functional, this greased wheel thought process. It's this real integrated digital model. So I would love for you to start out by talking about what you think the value of having a strategy like this would be for a marketer or business owner.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we came across this the hard way. I wish we would have learned it more easily or sooner. But the more common scenario that we would have is someone would come up to us and ask us to run their paid ads. We started originally as a paid media company. And there's a bunch of questions we didn't know to ask at that time, like, how are you going to report on this? Do you have the data to support proving whether or not this is actually going to work? Do you have a creative organization or creative access that will provide really good ads or content that will be meaningful or useful for someone to drive towards? Or even like
Mhm.
at the top, do you have a brand that sits atop product market fit or that is competitive with other brands in your area? And so I think a common mistake that folks fall into is they really look for like a collection of these point solutions. Like I want
Mhm.
the best paid social agency and I want to find the best branding agency and I want to find these different things without having a cohesive or central philosophy in how to do the whole approach. And so for us, we view that it's just as important to ensure that your brand is going to hit the target or that you have good content to start new relationships in the upper funnel as it is to spend a bunch of money on paid search ads and do that really well and capture a bunch of high intent searches at the bottom of the funnel. You do need to do both to be successful in the long term. And so I think that's kind of just become my philosophy and our philosophy at Digital Reach.
So I don't think, when we talk about this integrated approach, I'm always thinking about all of I look at it like a hub and spoke model, Andrew. So we're really driving traffic somewhere to the website. Maybe we're using content, we're using social media, we're using a super strong digital marketing strategy. Can you talk a little bit about some of the tactics that you may have recommended to B2B firms that have worked really well and what that might look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of capturing or generating demand as a starting place, one
Mhm.
of the most important tools that we have is something that we call internally, at least, sequential retargeting.
Mhm.
Basically bucketing your audience. If you imagine like you have an audience segment you're starting with, let's say that you have a certain product that's going towards, I don't know, like we're different with our organization right now that's selling to marketers. So you're going to work, this is marketing focused campaign. It's the line of business that you're going for. But then inside of that bucket, you have people at varying stages of awareness of their own problem and awareness of your brand. And so LinkedIn is one of the most effective and
Yeah.
best for doing this because it gives you both incredible targeting. Like it's the only like self-reported database of
Mhm.
information. Literally someone tells you, I am the head of marketing at XYZ company.
Right.
Like your next best option is like a demand base or a sixth sense where they're trying to like reverse IP lookup and like all this stuff.
Hmm.
LinkedIn's got this huge advantage, and they've got a lot of pretty mature ad platform. So what you might do is tactically setting up, like we usually use three buckets: an
Okay.
unaware, an aware, and an engaged bucket. And then this is the sort of the really critical linchpin of it. We then match the content that we're surveying to where people are at in the process. And those buckets can have super clear definitions. Like the top one has never engaged with anything. And the next one is like, okay, has been to our website, maybe has engaged in watched a video that we did, maybe they're on a list of people that we know have we've met at a conference or something. I don't know. And then the bottom group is these people that filled out forms, they have talked to our sales team, like they've done some things that are like really high intent. But then we can really align, okay, the top of the funnel, you guys are going to watch our video. We have a hype video, we have some like informational videos, YouTube
Yeah.
videos, like that kind of stuff. Middle of the funnel, okay, we have some guides, we have some things you can download and digest, some more deep
Hmm.
in, and then or like webinars is a common one we might throw there. And then the bottom of the funnel is a real offer. We offer
Okay.
a roadmap that is a money back guaranteed go to market plan. And we would never show that to someone who doesn't know who we are.
True.
They're never going to buy that. It's going to be a waste of money. But tactically, we kind of have split it up in this way that is really trying to speak to where someone's at in the funnel.
Yeah, that makes sense because if you look at it, if you break those 3 buckets down, you're looking at number 1, you're engaging them in one way or the other. You're either showing them a video, something that really piques their interest. It could be a multitude of different things, something that really attracts their attention. Number 2, it sounds like you're really focused in on educating them, getting them to really understand whatever topic they're after, providing the resources, the materials that help build that knowledge and also build that connection. And then number 3, that's when you kind of go in for the offer to your point, where at this point in time, you've gotten their attention, you've educated them. Now you want to move them through that funnel and get them to that close
Exactly.
cycle. So that makes complete sense. And I think that's a great strategy. And that, and how long do you think something like that takes if you were to try to move somebody through a B2B funnel? Is it sector dependent? Is consumer versus business owner types? Have you seen different sort of time frames based on who they are, what markets they're in? Can you speak a little about that?
Yeah. I think the sales cycles really vary,
Mhm.
over a variety of different reasons, but one of them might be the target audience you're trying to sell to. Like if you're trying to sell to a small business, for example, you're very likely to engage the decision maker directly. Like
Mhm.
they are the same person who's doing the research on figuring out what tool they want to use to solve their problem. If you're and so in that sense, your sales cycle can literally be sometimes like a day. Like somebody sees your ad, they click on your thing, they go to your site, they buy your product, or they contact someone to buy the product.
Right.
Um, the and for what it's worth, there's almost always some low hanging fruit that you might be able to capture. Let's just say, like on Google search is a good example of this. Like
Okay.
some keywords that are somebody typing in, I want to buy X, where X is
Right.
X. You can basically always have a profitable paid search program if you only go after those types of words.
Mhm.
There's like
Mhm.
probably not a ton of volume for those types of words. So you're not going to spend that much money. But I think the more common thing that we see with a lot of our companies, especially ABM clients, are that they're actually trying to engage like a buyer group of a
Mhm.
large number of people who are trying to solve a very high value and very complicated problem. And so in that sense, the education is not just you and a decision maker. It's actually you and maybe a variety of influencers. It is speaking to a collection of different pains, like maybe on a executive level, that pain is I'm missing my revenue targets. But maybe on a practitioner level, the pain is I can't get the damn website to do the thing that it's supposed to do. And so the being able to speak to both of those contingencies, I think nurtures their relationship until you have a buying committee with enough momentum that you end up in like an enterprise sale. So
Mhm.
if that's a multi-million-dollar deal, which for a number of our clients, that would like what the kind of things they sell, those things might take several years to from initial first engagement all the way through to 20-person buying committee that's going to then approve some $10 million purchase.
Right.
So there's a pretty wide range, I think, and most organizations tend to know. We usually start off with a benchmark, so like,
Mhm.
well, how long it takes, and then our mission is then to accelerate that. Like, how do we make this
How
happen
do
more inexpensively?
So when you're dealing with sort of internal teams, it could be the marketing team or the sales teams, they're often silos. So, and it's always been a challenge, right? Trying to connect marketing and sales and then finance and how do those two in particular work together? Have you come across any tactics, any recommendations around connecting those systems to avoid those silos, particularly in a go-to market strategy?
Yeah. I will start off by saying that I think it almost always has to start at the top, that some organizations foster a culture of collaboration and some foster a culture of competition. And I'm
Mhm.
not really totally sure which is better. In fact,
Mhm.
some organizations might better or worse than the other. But I would say that the things that we see on a very high level are an alignment of sales and marketing goals where they're on the same, like,
Yep.
competition over credit generally is not super productive. I tend to
Uh,
find organizations are more successful when they have a shared revenue goal, and
okay.
often rolling up to a chief revenue officer, for example, as opposed to a battling CMO versus a chief sales officer kind of thing. So that's one super high level takeaway. I think the other kind of like maybe more tactical thing is there's actually a bunch of space where there's mutually beneficial conversation between marketing and sales teams
Mhm.
that people sleep on. Well, I'll give you like a really common example. Like, we actually had this like example with a client where we had working with a marketing team, and this is like last year maybe, uh,
Okay.
and we're getting nothing but good feedback from the marketing team. Like, the MQL numbers are up, the traffic numbers are up. We think things are going great. We're like preparing to ask them for a case study on all the success we're having. Out of the blue, the entire marketing team gets let go, and sales gets moved over to be in charge of the relationship with us.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow, that's
Sales
interesting.
sales sits down and they
Yep.
say, "You've never driven us one quality lead, and we're not paying for this." And the misalignment that was happening between the sales side of the table and the marketing side of the table was so dramatic, and it could have been easily solved if we just like had a conversation. And
Right.
one of the things that we have introduced after that actually was just like a standing lead quality call.
Mhm.
Month, you spend 20 minutes with the marketing stakeholder and the sales stakeholder, and you just say, "Do the leads look good? Like, are they coming through and they seem appropriate?" And we can also do some education there. When people talk about lead quality, they often are talking about two different directions. One of them is this lead at the right type of company?
Mhm.
Then the other one is this lead ready to buy?
Right. Right.
So, for example, Google driven leads, super ready to buy a lot. They're going in there and they're typing in, "I want to buy product X." Well, they might be like the intern, or they might be like an SMB, or they might be, in the wrong geo or something like that. LinkedIn, on the other hand, it's like, "Oh, this is the director of IT at a Fortune 500 company. That is a really qualified lead." But they're also like, "I am here to read a white paper." They're not anywhere near purchasing. And so finding that right equilibrium, we can help educate the sales team as to kind of where we are in the process and also get super valuable feedback from them,
Right.
who they're talking to, what's effective, and also like messaging and talk tracks. Like, they
Mhm.
offer best messages. And if we can incorporate those into our ads, our emails, our organic meta
Yeah.
information, like that kind of thing, it really helps. I think, rising tide float all boats kind of thing.
I'd love you to talk a little bit more about how you may have had put together a successful campaign. Maybe you could tell me what it was on, and then the different tactics that you tied together to make that be a big success.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about and there's a case study for this on our website, but we did a lot of work with the very large corporation VMware. And the case study is about one of their business units, a group called Tanzu. And we were thankfully there's an awesome company to be a partner with. So we were kind of brought in this integrated way where we were not just working on one side of the equation, but we were working on we built landing pages for them. We built reporting for them. We helped integrate their demand base for like an ABM movement. And then we also were running ads on a variety of platforms, basically all the paid social platforms, Google. The the thing that made this really, I think, really successful was we had a super targeted audience. It was a very clear set of accounts, and they were actually especially strict. They were like, "We're not on this list. We don't want to talk to you.
Mhm.
This is even if you're a lead coming in from a company that seems good, who wants to buy, like, doesn't matter. If you're not on the list, we don't talk to you." So we had this extremely narrow focus and we were able to come up with really, really crisp OKRs for the engagement. So we could say, we want this many matched leads. That's leads that have filled out a form from one of the matched accounts.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, we want this much account engagement. So we have demand-based setup tracking all the account engagement. We know our account lists. We want to see these accounts increase by this much engagement. And we wanted to do this by offering this really personalized experience. So we have like verticalized landing pages that were serving these really great experiences. And then we
Yeah.
were kind of like covering the zone with really valuable content.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this example is kind of like honestly, it's like the model we use often for how to create a best practice campaign, which is that it was truly integrated. We had the same goals for everyone. We had removed the silos from the equation. We had a sales liaison. We had all the things that we needed to be
Mm-hmm.
successful. And as a result, we drove a ton of matched leads. We drove a ton of pipeline revenue. And this was all in the run up to ultimately VMware getting acquired and like the largest merger of all
That's
time.
awesome. That's
So
phenomenal.
it was a really big success.
Awesome. So I would love to, I don't know if you have anything else you want to share, but I'd love to ask you a couple of what I call rapid fire questions
Go for
for,
it.
I'm sure you've been doing this for 12 years, so I'm sure you have an answer. So if you could, maybe your answers would be 2 to 5 sentences, like right to the point. That'd be awesome. All right, cool. So ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right. So what's your biggest mistake in business?
It's just coming right out.
I'm right out of
Um,
it.
I think this is such a cliche, but we had a product a few years ago that we was super easy to sell, and we thought that it would be super awesome for our clients. We It was like a new version of how we were going to provide our services.
Hmm.
And we weren't proactive in the actual strategy or the service delivery in that product. Like it ended up being where like we kind of turned to the client and asked them, well, what do you want to do, instead of us saying, hey, this is really the best way to go to market. Like we're the
Yeah.
ones who are the experts here.
Okay.
I think the big mistake there was that we didn't take a strategic leadership role in the
Yeah.
engagement, and we actually
Yeah.
have a new product that is now designed to totally correct that issue. But
Hmm.
I would say, yeah, like we do this a lot. We have experts. Like we should take a role of leadership, I think.
Awesome. Okay. So, what do you tell your client that their first step should be if they engage with you?
We do the same percent for everyone. It is called a roadmap for us, and it is a execution ready go to market plan.
Okay.
And the reason we do it this way is because all the time folks will say, we want you to just go drive pipeline, just
Hmm.
go get us opportunities. And like we talked at the very beginning of this conversation, if you don't have a way to report on stuff, or you don't have content that will support it, or a brand that's off target or something like that, you can't win.
Right.
So starting from a really like crystal clear view of everything is really important, because often like people think they want paid media, but they really want pipeline.
Right.
Maybe it's like the place to get pipeline is actually because you drop 100 leads on the ground every month in your CRM. It's like, if we fix that, that'll be so much faster than if we spend a ton of money on ads.
Right.
And so zooming out and remembering that like the answer is almost always just pipeline, always for
Hmm.
and trying to figure out the best, most strategic route to getting there. I think that's how we always start.
Yeah. And what's your top digital tip? Would you say to a customer client?
Google search is amazing at capturing buyers,
Hmm.
but not good tool for branding.
And my last question, just for our audience, is we talked about ABM a lot. Can you take a couple sentences and explain to them what is that and why is it important?
EBM stands for account based marketing. And the really key difference between account based marketing and sort of traditional marketing or lead based marketing or demand generation marketing and so forth is that version applies to people, or like focuses really on individual people, whereas account based marketing is focused on the account, the
Mhm.
actual company, which in a B2B environment is, who ultimately signs the check, like it's the company that's paying the bills. And the kind of, I guess the important distinction here would be to say, you might get 20 leads that all come through as like an MQL, but they're all from kind of crummy companies. And your sales team might spend all their time working on that. Whereas you might see 20 pre MQL people at a really good account all engaging, and you might miss that if you're not
Right.
paying attention. And
Right.
instead, you might want to go capture that giant account that has all those people engaging. But if you're not in an ABM mentality, you'll miss it.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate you joining in and sharing all your insights about digital and integrated marketing strategies. I would love for you to share how the audience can get in touch with you. So I'll have you take it from here.
Thanks, Linda. It's been a total pleasure to be here. Yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn or, of course, come visit our website at digitalreachagency.com. Happy to chat about anything and would love to explore a roadmap if that's something that sounded interesting to you.
That sounds fantastic. Well, thank you again. Thank you for listening in to the B2B Brand 180 podcast. For more information, you can visit us at mill.agency or you can connect with me directly on LinkedIn as well. And happy marketing. Thanks for joining us today.